Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Piqua City Commission meeting for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. May I entertain a motion to adjourn from executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned from executive session. We have a presentation this evening by Arbor Homes. Why is it so dark in here? I guess we don't have all the lights.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Paul Metzger, and this is Hey Young. And we're from Arbor Homes, and wanted to just give you a little presentation about what we're doing now in the city. And we are recently have started our Arrowhead Estates. And, we came into the Arrowhead as a second builder there. The original builder, withdrew, and we came into it in the spring here. And actually, yes, sorry. Anyway, so we came into the project this spring, actually purchased 36 lots this summer as a start, and then we'll be continuing to buy the remainder of the lots. We're committed to buy all 85 lots. So give you a little overview, and then I'll have a slide presentation here in a second. So Arbor Homes, we're based out of Indianapolis. We started there in 1994. In 2018, we were actually acquired by Clayton Properties Group, which is part of Berkshire Hathaway, wholly owned by both of those companies, but we're still acting independently as a regional builder. So it's important that we keep kind of local roots here. And as we're from Indianapolis, we came to Ohio 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and here to stay. So. We are based in this individual division is based in Cincinnati, the Cincinnati-Dayton area. We call the Cincinnati-Dayton division. And this year we expect to have about 80 total closings in our region, with about 120 sales this year as well, which is a growth of from 8 home closings last year. And I was joking with Chris, home closings is when we finally get paid. So that's kind of the big deal to us. So we're really excited about the opportunities here in the city. So one thing that's really important to us is we're based and founded on providing affordable and attainable homes for people, and our really corporate goal is to get as many people in homes as possible, especially those that may not be able to get in new homes, in the past or in conventional ways. So that's really what the company's founded on, and that's what we strive for. For Arrowhead Estates specifically, again, we stepped in from another builder and are committed to buy all 85 lots. We've purchased the 36 to date. We have just started last week our model home there, which, if things go well, will be opened up in February. So that'll really spark more interest and activity down there. Hey Young is now working out of a sales trailer there, and they're 5 days a week.
Yes.
So if you're out and about and anybody wants to come down and see her, she'd be happy to see you. Typically, our homes in that community are going to start about $235,000 and go up to $305,000 for what we call the base level house. But typically, we're going to see $30,000 to $35,000 in options as well. So, give or take, we're usually, $250,000 to about $400,000 is really our market range in these communities. But part of what we do is if someone wants to come in and buy a base level house, they're going to have Formica countertops and things like that. If they want to upgrade to granite and so forth, they can do that and make their own choices. I'm going to flip through a little slide presentation here. And I don't know what I just did there. Hold on. Okay, so there's the subdivision. This is 80 lots of what was called Section 2. We also bought 5 existing lots in the original subdivision that are a part of what we have as well. We are offering 12 floor plans here. We strive really hard to not make our subdivisions look like what a lot of people would call the cookie cutter subdivisions, where we try to get a lot of variety in the elevations. If someone buys on lot number 1 a white house can't go on lot number 2, and the elevations have to change and those type of things. In all of our home styles, there's at least 3, sometimes as many as 6 elevations. And again, they can't match from adjoining lots. So we really try to do that. A lot of cities appreciate that and like us over some of the other people, including the builder who didn't come in here. So you're going to come in and see a lot more variety than you would in most builders at this level. We do structural options. Basements are an option for us. Our base house are slab on grade. Basement is something that someone can choose. Sunrooms, if the lot allows it, a 10 by 12 sunroom can go on the back of the house. Great rooms, extensions, things like that. Interior options is going up to gourmet kitchens, deluxe master bedrooms. You can option up to a 12-foot, or a 9-foot ceiling instead of an 8-foot ceiling. Our basic house has vinyl siding of various styles. We have masonry as an option on the front elevations, and then we always do dimensional shingles on the roof lines, which is not a standard at levels of homes like this. Buyer choice value is really where the customer can choose a lot of those things. Landscaping, we have 1 tree and 6 bushes in each yard. And then these are our various elevations. Our homes range from 1,200 square feet, this is without a basement, all the way to 3,200 square feet. There are 3 bedrooms through 5, you could argue a 6th if no one ever picks a 6-bedroom. Generally, we have a house called a Empress that if they get rid of a loft, they could do a 6-bedroom, but that's rarely chosen. But again, just different elevations and what's available. You know, so this Aspen has a lot of opportunities. We're losing some color here for some reason, but again, we can make this available, or it is available with Chris, if you want to see more information, and Hey Young would have all those available as well. And again, I'm not sure what's going on with the video here, but I apologize. But Hey Young would be happy to answer any questions about specifically to Arrowhead. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to be in the city and look forward to it. You know, 85 lots. Chris asked what our time frame of that was. I'd like to hope that we're out of there in 3 years and looking for a successor project here in the town for that. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I just want to let you know that I am open 5 days a week, and, and I can answer any questions. When they call the website, they will direct you over to me, and you can personally schedule an appointment. If it doesn't work out with you, they personally will contact me, and then I will make those schedule work for each individual. I do have something that I can give for the people that are here about our community, and like I said, it is open. Tell everybody that, to come visit me, and I hope to see everybody there.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's been really exciting to see those homes go up because we know that has sat there for a while and has not been used. So thank you so much. Do you have a model open, or is it more?
It will be open, Paul says, in about February.
Perfect.
We did break ground. We
Okay.
do have a couple home sites already sold, and we do have 2 quick move-ins that are breaking ground as well, too. So we are getting some interest. I don't know, I have been kind of like walking the town a lot and trying to advertise our community. So, I'm sure I've seen your guys' faces, or you might have seen me, so. But yeah, I'm really excited to see everybody, and hopefully people will come and visit me, and I would love to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you.
We've
Thank
heard
you.
a lot of conversation recently about Piqua's housing stock in general, and I wonder what your study says about the homes that you're developing and how that fits into an overall
Yeah.
growth development kind of a strategy.
Yeah, I have talked to a couple realtors in the Piqua realtors that does a lot of business, and I know that you guys do have a shortage in Piqua. A lot of people in Piqua don't seem to move out, there is. I feel like we are in that price point that the realtor says we are in that price point. It all depends on what they're looking for. I mean, I can build, we, Arbor Homes, can build them an affordable home, like in the 250 range, having all the nice finishes, almost like a custom build. We're not a custom, but we're an affordable quality builder. So.
That helps. I'm not going to share the price I paid for my first home, so I'll let that go.
Yeah, and you know, it's literally just sitting down with me, and I can just talk to them like what they need and what's really important to them, and we can just kind of sit down and then usually when I know their budget, it really tells me like what kind of home they're looking for, and then like Paul says, we want everybody to be in a home, and we strive to do that for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
I wanted to add one more thing if I could. We understand that there's discussion in the city about some consolidation of your BZA and your planning commission, and would like to put in a word of support for that. Things would, go smoother. I mean, there was an instance a few months ago where I think we went 2 or 3 months trying to get a quorum of your BZA together for a hearing that we had over there. So everything worked out fine. We got it. But again, those type of things are make it smoother. And again, just any delays in our process and our cycle time is cost us money. So we'd like to see those go as smoothly as possible. And I also recognize, and I serve on a board in the community that I live in as well. It's hard to get people to serve those boards. So when you can consolidate that and have the right people, that's important. So, but again, we appreciate everything with the city of Piqua. We're trying to get as active as we can. Hey Young has joined the Chamber of Commerce. I've joined the Western Ohio Home Builders Association and things like that. So we're going to be active up here and in the region, and want to be part of this community. So if there's things you need from us, reach out and let us know.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So at this time, we have a consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval of the minutes from the November 21st, 2023 regular city commission meeting has been approved. It's time for public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the city commission on agenda items. Comments are requested to be limited to 5 minutes.
Mayor, I'd like to move to amend the agenda by shifting the comment period to after new business.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move the public comment portion to, you said the
After
end?
new business.
After new business? Okay. Is there any discussion?
I'll just say once again, my reasoning is just moving public comment back to where it used to be a few months ago and where it was for a long time before that. I also particularly like the idea that the citizens have more of a final comment, they kind of the final word in our meetings. So moving public comment back to where it used to be at, again, it fits with the tradition that was for a long time, and then again gives the public final say on stuff.
And I would like to say that this public comment period of time is set aside for folks who have maybe something that they want to talk about outside what is happening on the agenda. And they would not necessarily have to sit through an entire meeting and could state their information early on in the meeting and be able to leave the meeting without having to stay through the entire meeting to get to the end of the meeting to state and announce their event. So I believe we have a motion and a second. So would you call the roll, please? Melissa?
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Vetter,
No.
Mayor Pearson,
No.
Commissioner Hines,
Aye.
Commissioner Homan.
Aye.
Here it is.
We have 3 and 2. So it looks like we're going to move public comment to the end of the agenda, right after new business.
Will that start today?
Hello, Larry. Go ahead.
What?
No, he's here for public
He's here
comment.
for public comment.
Correct.
So we have to move, we're moving you to the end.
So we're going to sit you down
We're
and
gonna
have
sit
you
you down,
wait
bring you
till
right
the
back
end.
up when we
Sorry,
get done
Larry.
with new business. Sorry about that.
All right, we're moving on to old business, ordinance number O-15-23, second reading.
An ordinance to make appropriations for the city of Piqua, Ohio for the year 2024.
Mayor and commission members, we're bringing the 2024 appropriations forth for the second reading. There were no changes from the first reading.
All right. Are there any comments or questions from commission? Are there any questions or comments from our citizens? Okay. We will have the third reading at our next meeting. Ordinance number O-16-23, second reading.
An ordinance amending Chapter 94 of the Piqua Code relating to the municipal golf course.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is the second reading on this ordinance. We had a presentation at the last meeting in regards to the golf course and the need to adjust fees at the golf course to make it more profitable. This ordinance would do that. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from commission? Are there any comments or questions from our citizens? Okay. This ordinance will be addressed for the third reading at our next meeting. Ordinance number O-17-23.
An ordinance repealing Schedule A of Chapter 33 of the Piqua Code and adopting a new Schedule A of Chapter 33 of the Piqua Code relating to wages of certain municipal employees.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is our second reading for Schedule A. This schedule covers the salaries for our full-time, non-union employees. The cost of living adjustment for 2024 has been applied to the schedule, and certain classifications will be adjusted in an effort to support organizational efficiencies for our operations.
Are there any comments or questions from commissioners? Are there any comments or questions from our citizens? Okay. We will address this ordinance at our next meeting for the third reading. Ordinance number O-18-23.
An ordinance repealing Schedule A1 of Chapter 33 of the Piqua Code and adopting a new Schedule A1 of Chapter 33 of the Piqua Code relating to wages of certain municipal employees.
Thank you. Schedule A1 pertains to our part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees. The wages here for certain classifications will be adjusted in accordance with the state minimum wage requirements and cost of living adjustments.
Any comments or questions from commission? Are there any comments or questions from citizens? Okay. This ordinance will be presented for the third reading at our next meeting. Ordinance number O-19-23.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 32 of the Piqua Code of Ordinances.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you. This is the second reading of the item pertaining to this matter. As you'll recall, this item would consolidate the Tree Committee and the Park Board, and also combine the Planning Commission and the BZA. In both instances, the intent is to make it more practical for the bodies to function during periods of expansion and contraction of the membership, and also to allow them to more effectively and efficiently deliver the services that they're responsible for providing.
Are there any comments or questions from commission?
I do. We just had a presentation where it was implied that the Board of Zoning Appeals has quorum issues. Do you have any data to support if they've regularly failed to reach quorum over the last year or during any time period?
I can speak to that. We've had at least 2 meetings in recent months where, because of folks who have dropped off the board and/or because of personal conflicts, we were unable to conduct business due to a lack of a quorum. So that's what the gentleman was referring to.
And they meet once a month, or is it?
It's a once a month
Okay.
scheduled meeting as necessary.
Okay. So that's kind of a, I guess, alarming frequency.
It's rather unusual to be where we're at right now. We're actually, down to 2 members. Typically, you try to maintain 5. The other part of that is the Planning Commission also meets once a month. It has a full membership, and they function in very similar manners in terms of the due process that's required in the business that they conduct. So one is very similar to the other, and sometimes there's folks who even get confused about which meeting they're to be attending. But it makes a lot of sense, in our professional opinion, that the 2 bodies would be combined into one. I think it would eliminate some challenges.
The presenter, we had one example where they implied there was some friction caused, in slowing down their ability to develop, increasing their cost to develop in Piqua. Do you have any other examples, or is that kind of a trend, or anything else you can speak to the current setup slowing down development and dollars coming into Piqua?
What I can speak to it, and the way I would speak to it is that in recent past, we've made a lot of adjustments to eliminate the friction. So, for example, special uses used to have to go to the Planning Commission, then be referred to the City Commission, then the City Commission had to take action. That was reduced to an action by the Planning Commission, so it expedited the process. There are other examples where we've done things to streamline the process to the extent permissible or reasonable. And so what we have done is created a very user-friendly or as user-friendly a process as we can. This instance, no, there's not other examples. This is a particular instance where it has delayed their speed to market because of our inability to conduct business, and that's exactly what we do not want to have happen. So in part, that's why we've presented this item. But seeing where we were heading or trending with the membership on that body, it was also something that we had contemplated, recognizing the ongoing struggles to maintain a full board.
With the BZA I guess what percentage of their, let's call them customers, are commercial versus private citizens? Somebody who just owns their house and wants to do something versus a commercial entity approaching them wanting to build something.
I don't have the exact data in front of me. I would tell you that the business volume before the BZA is fairly low. That they're there as a stopgap measure when there's unique and peculiar circumstances present at a particular site or location that might necessitate or warrant a variance from the adopted code to make it possible to do what they would like to do or what is within the intent of the code to do. Their other function is to hear appeals. If there's a disagreement on the interpretation of the code and it's being enforced, and it's the outlet for a citizen to be able to come before a body and make their case and have a determination rendered as to whether or not the code's being applied properly. Those are not frequent. Those are, and I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but I'm going to say there's been maybe 2 appeals over the past year. Perhaps 2 or 3 variances over the past year. So if the code's working and if we're doing our job properly, there's not a lot of activity at the Board of Zoning Appeals. The changes proposed would not alter any of the opportunities to appeal the interpretation of the code or any of the avenues that exist today. They would all continue to exist. It would just be channeled now to this consolidated board as opposed to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So you don't plan to fill the 2 BZA openings if this passes?
If we consolidate them, it wouldn't make sense because we've got 5 members on the Planning Commission and we've got 2 on the BZA, and that would make a full body for the proposed panel.
And none of the codes that may be passed or brought to the Planning Commission would then go to the BZA?
No,
So there's no conflict there whatsoever?
there is none.
There was one time I attended a planning commission meeting, and they were hearing an appeal about the design of a downtown building that was, I believe, under some kind of historic preservation. It sounded to me, I guess I'm trying to figure out what's the difference between them and the BZA, and if maybe you could, how would that have played out if we had these boards merged versus having them the way that they are? Because it sounded to me like people were already appealing something to the planning commission. Maybe it's probably a separate category. Hopefully you can explain to me.
So part of what the planning commission currently is involved in is the review of certificates of appropriateness. So if there's a proposed change or alteration to a building that has historical significance or is located in the downtown historical district, they are required to have a certificate of appropriateness before the permits are approved for that project. And those go to the planning commission, and oftentimes that's a dialogue with the building owner in advance to help them arrive at a solution that is consistent with what the code prescribes for what is appropriate for the historic district and the era and the type of architecture and so on and so forth. And then the planning commission's role is to further vet that and make sure that what is happening is consistent with the character of that building, and it's not doing something that's deleterious to the district. So there's a dialogue there. It's not an appeal, but oftentimes if what's being requested is not in a line with what is most appropriate or best practices would have you deem appropriate, then there'll be a little bit of back and forth about, well, let's see if we can get it closer to what these standards would suggest should happen. So that's part of their duties. That's the planning commission. They also hear requests for subdivisions when it comes to preliminary plats to prepare land to be developed. It's their duty to look at it and make sure that there's adequate water and sewer and other public infrastructure facilities that can be extended and support the proposed development. That then lays the groundwork for what's presented subsequently when it comes to the final plat for each section of the subdivision as it's developed, and then the construction plans that are presented for approval for the construction of the public infrastructure. The Planning Commission receives those, reviews those, here's staff's recommendation. All of that's after staff's done a thorough review. Staff includes all of the departments that have a role to play in terms of the services that they deliver, the sections of the code they're responsible for. That then is presented to the Planning Commission so that they're the body making the formal adoption or acceptance of those plans, ensuring that it's consistent with the preliminary plat that was already validated or vetted for concurrence with our community plan. Those things go through the Planning Commission today. The BZA is the body, as I mentioned, is the stopgap, the relief valve is how you'll often hear it described in communities. No code can predict every set of circumstances. So if in our community, the example I would use is lots were platted and then subsequently there was a levee built. So the depth of the rear yard isn't typical. It's less than what you would typically find in most residential lots that have the standard lot depth. And the applicant wants to add onto the rear of the house, and they have a 30-foot rear yard setback requirement. Now they might not be able to meet that. So there's a unique and peculiar circumstance that the BZA can consider that warrants an exception to the code. It's a land use matter. It's the same as what the Planning Commission discusses every day as it relates to setbacks and height and buildings and land use patterns. So it makes a lot of sense, or it's very logical, to have one body with 7 members who are, it's a more well-rounded by virtue of the increased number, but also gives you one place to go if you're Urban Homes and you need the final plat to be approved, and you also need a variance because you've got an irregular lot that you purchased that wasn't part of your plat. They can get it done in one fell swoop and not have to go to 2 separate meetings, or in the case of not being able to have quorum, have to go wait for a meeting down the road. And then the other piece is the BZA does the appeals, which I already mentioned. That's the opportunity for folks to come and express their difference of opinion if they think any of the code, the zoning code, the property maintenance code, any of the land use codes are being administered or interpreted incorrectly. And again, I don't have the actual number in front of me, but I can tell you those are few and far between. Seldom does that happen, or does it get to that point. the amount of effort that we put into working with folks to try to resolve those issues, and/or the code compliance folks put forth to try to come to some solution that makes sense for everybody and everybody can be satisfied with, usually prevails. So that's a quick synopsis of what those boards do.
Any other questions or comments from commission? Any questions or comments from our citizens?
My comment, will I be able to comment on public?
Yes.
Yeah, you can come up in public as well.
Well, I just want to make sure, 'cause last
On
time you
each-
guys wouldn't let me talk.
On each ordinance, you can.
Jeff Grimes, 1314 Maplewood Drive. So my opinion on this is that we should keep them separate, and slow and steady wins the race. I think that we have a lot of examples lately that stuff hasn't been looked at properly and things have slipped through the cracks. So I suggest that we keep these boards separate and take our time on anything that comes into this town. A lot of times if we rush through stuff, things slip through the cracks. So that's just my opinion. Thank you very much.
You.
Alicia Lang, I also agree with Jeff. I believe that this should remain separate. There are some rumors going around town that if we merge them, you no longer need new candidates. You'll have the number of people that you already need for one board. So then people like Eva Silvers and Adam Cease here won't even be considered to be on these boards, and that maybe this town would be afraid of having people that would read each line that comes through. And I think that's something our town needs.
Thank you.
Chris, there are term limits, correct, on boards?
That's correct. There are term limits. The appointments are each March is when the typical term expires, and I believe they're 5 years.
So can somebody serve back to back, or do they have to be off for a while?
They can reapply, and then the commission would have to reappoint them.
Okay, so the terms are 5 years, then they have to reapply to come back on?
Correct.
So the people who are currently on both of these boards, where are we in term limits with them?
We have one that term expires in March of '24, and then
Okay.
the others are staggered thereafter. So I think there's a couple in '25, one in '26, and two in '27, or something like that. So they stagger actually well with the terms that are currently in place with the folks that are on those bodies.
So there would be one coming up in March of '24.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right, thank you.
And
Adam Cease, 1853 West Parkway. My question is, the current BZA people, I think you said you had 2, what would happen to them?
So under the proposed model, the BZA would consolidate with the planning commission. So as it
Would there
exists
be more
today,
members than there was before? I think there's, 5 on the planning commission?
as it exists today, there are 5 planning commission members. One of them is appointed as a representative to the BZA, recognizing the commonalities in their duties that they provide. And then there are 2 separate individuals that are appointed specifically to the BZA currently. So there's 3 seats that are being occupied on the BZA, but there's
Would
only
they lose their
7
position
people.
if it was combined with the,
No.
okay. My other question is, there's a lot of people that disagree with the planning commission on a lot of things. I mean, I think if I remember, there's 2 lawsuits going on, so I just don't know. I think if you're gonna completely change it, maybe it's time to, let those people expire and start a whole new group of people, because do we really need more lawsuits in this town? I mean, professionally, I like all the people on the planning commission, but, I disagree with them on a lot of things, and I don't think we need to give them even more power than what they were originally elected into. So, I think you should leave it the way it is, personally. I mean, do we want more lawsuits in this town? There's some issues that have gone through the planning commission that I watched a meeting, and like I said, I like a lot of people on the planning commission, but I mean, if you rewatch those meetings, somebody outside of this community watches those, I mean, some of the stuff that was said was just rude. So, I don't know, I don't think I want some of the people on the planning commission in charge of whether my house gets torn down or not, so. It's just my opinion.
Thank you.
But the other alternative is that for people who disagree, they still have the Court of Common Pleas to take their appeal to as another step.
They should be two separate bodies.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. Paul Simmons, 215 McKinley Avenue. I would be in favor of keeping the two boards separate. Even this close to me being up there, I already am hearing, you're one of them. So we get them and they, and then there's us. But I think we'd be better served by keeping the two boards separate and doing a better job of encouraging our community to become involved in government by joining these boards and filling them all out.
Thank you.
Do we have any current applicants? Is there a pool of applicants for the BZA currently? Is that open?
We've been advertising the position for some time since we've had vacancies, and I know there's 3 or 4 that we've got currently in the office.
And then Mr. Patrizio, parliamentary inquiry. If we wanted to slice this ordinance in half and vote on the Parks and Tree Board separately from voting on the BZA and the Planning Commission, would we be able to do that, or would we just have to strike one of them and they'd have to resubmit the one that we struck?
Interesting question. The ordinance is written as a whole, so you'd have to amend it to probably remove one if you don't want to vote on both of them, and you have to amend the ordinance to remove the other.
Yeah, because I think we could amend it by removing
That's
the
correct.
last one, but then we wouldn't get to vote on the other one. So that's why I was
The
wondering
other
if
one
there-
would die. I mean, you would have
Yeah.
to bring it up in another.
Tree
meeting.
committee makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think everyone's upset about the tree committee.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, we're moving into new business. Resolution number R-129-23.
A resolution establishing a Piqua City Commission 2024 calendar of meetings.
Good evening, Commissioners. So for the last couple of years, we've been bringing the upcoming year's calendar to the commission for authorization, establishing your meeting dates, your town halls, other activities of interest to the community that would be on the agenda, would be duly noted in the calendars before you. And so we just wanted to bring it to you for your approval. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments about the calendar? Commission. Okay. Any questions or comments from our citizens? Is there a motion to
Make a
adopt?
motion to approve resolution number R-129-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution number R-129-23 is approved. We now have a presentation by Nick Vicari and Scott Gruber of Meter Investment Management.
Hello,
Welcome.
everyone. Thanks for having me today. Scott's at home with the sick child, so I'll be handling it from here. It's great to be with you all. No, been asked to speak for about 10 minutes or so. Hopefully that still meets the criteria here. Happy to go longer if there are questions. But get to give a little background into who Meter is in our process. And ultimately, this is a very exciting time for the city with elevated cash balances, interest rates the highest we've seen in some time. There's a really good opportunity to lock into some of these higher yields that we're seeing in the marketplace, so we can prolong our interest earnings. It's starting to become a line item here on our budget there, and we want to keep it as long as we can. As mentioned, my name is Nick Vicari. I am an advisor with Meter. I've been with the company for 12 years, working all in the governmental institutional space. Today I wanted to, again, give a little background on Meter, the services that we offer, and then lastly provide a sample solution of what we would propose helping the city with. And before I even dive in, I want to highlight really the 3 main tenets of public fund investing in the state of Ohio. And this is consistent across the board. It's safety, being number one, liquidity, and then yield. Again, really those first two pillars being of utmost importance, and we'll talk about how we'll look to safeguard the city's funds, all while maximizing income through the long term here. But please, at any point in time, feel free to stop me, ask questions. I want this to be as interactive as possible if there are questions. So we'll dive in. I guess I need to use the pointer here. There we go. Perfect. So Meter in its entirety was founded in 1974. We've been working with governments actually since 1990. And we're in the business of long-term, big-picture planning, when to sit on the same side of the aisle as our clients. We work with over 350 public entities, it's actually over $52 billion under management and advisement, making us the second largest public funds advisor in the country, and we are located in Dublin here. We have a team of over 100 individuals. Wouldn't just be myself involved with the city. There's a whole professional staff that would be working with the finance team and be able to speak at any of events that we would be needed at. Flipping the page here, one of the questions we always get is, who else do you work with? And again, there's a who's list of counties and cities that we do work with. From the city of Vandalia, city of Huber Heights, the city of Dayton, Miami County. Jim, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Jim over at the county level, but we do work with them as well. Have been also working with the state of Ohio since 2001 is our largest client. So getting into more of an overview and the services that we offer, and I won't go through each and individual one of these here, but the main point is to get across is we want the city to look at us as an extension of their staff, and to create this continuity over the long term, and really simplify the entire process from start to finish, because there really is an art to investing public dollars. It's not the same as working with Joe and Jane Smith's IRA at the local bank. There's specific laws and regulations that we have to follow to ensure that we are staying in top compliance at that level. We do the investment management piece very well, but there are a whole host of ancillary services that we provide that the city would have full access to, from helping out and reviewing the investment policy, which again is going to put the guardrails and the safety in place for the city, but it's also going to allow us to maximize income over the long term by having a program spelled out for us. Second piece of this is the cash flow. So again, this is something we work with the city to find historical trends and to really try to identify those longer term rainy day funds that we can, again, put into the fixed income universe to really increase income over time period. Then you really marry those two together and you get the investment strategy, which we know the economic landscape and the interest rate environment has been changing over the last, call it 18 months. In addition to that, from monthly reporting review, we'd be able to provide the commission consolidated reports to help out and simplify with the finance team to keep everyone up to date from that standpoint. In addition to compliance monitoring, so we would input the investment policy of the city, state law into our program or to our software, and be able to track to ensure that we're staying in compliance on that front. And then the other two, from credit research to banking custody RFPs, that is something that we would be able to assist the city with at no additional cost for service. All right, got through the background there. Any questions before I get into the actual solution and what that would look like? All right, perfect. Try not to throw any too technical words out there. I know it can get a little boring. But as we look to the future here, and why this is so important, is that we fully expect interest rates to move lower into 2024 and into 2025. And currently, with how the city's investment program is structured, with those utilizing cash-like vehicles, so your bank accounts at the local bank and so forth, as the Federal Reserve starts to cut interest rates, what's fully expected here over the next, call it 2 years, that interest income that we've been used to receiving is going to drop as they continue to move interest rates lower. And so what we're trying to establish, as we'll continue to move forward here, is, well, what is the right amount that we can invest and lock into these heightened yields? So even if when the Fed does lower interest rates, we can preserve that interest income that we've been so accustomed to receiving over the, again, past 12 to 18 months. And so by doing so, we want to historically look at city cash balances. And this is something we've been working with the finance team to find those historical low points over, call it, the past 18 or so months here. And really, we haven't fell below, we'll call it 60 million in an overall cash balance. And the recommendations typically from those low points, which for cities in the state, you're going to find in that January, the winter time frames, that we look to carve out 80% to be invested, with 20% to be remaining liquid to meet short-term needs from that standpoint. So the media here, it looks a little choppy up there from the PowerPoint. Hopefully everyone can see it okay. But, the initial recommendation, this is something that we'll work with the finance team to ensure that we're comfortable in the process, would be the top end recommendation would be to have $48 million invested, with 12 million remaining liquid in cash from those historical low points. And the reason we really we look to structure it this way is that as we get into 2024 and we get to the same time periods, and it's determined that 60 million maybe is not the low watermark, maybe it's 58 million, then we know we need to allow investments to roll off and replenish our cash-like vehicles. So that's what you see us have from that sample maturity distribution down there at the bottom. We're big believers in having regular maturities. So one, if cash flows change, we can get to the holdings if we need to. But the second piece of this is that as interest rates are moving lower, we have more of a favor to go out and buy longer dated maturities, so the city is able to budget for that interest income for an extended period of time. And we're doing so by being very diversified and looking at the permissible investments under Ohio Revised Code, which would fall up in that upper right quadrant there.
Can you expand on what you mean by commercial paper? Is that corporate bonds?
Yes, sir, it is. It's a short-term debt of highly rated A1, P1 like companies that has to mature within inside of 270 days within Ohio law. So it's very short-term in nature from that side of things.
How do you go into selecting which companies you're looking at for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a credit team that all they do is they read financials of financial institutions. In addition to that, we subscribe to FactSet, Bloomberg, all the other publications out there. But we ultimately make our own determination based upon the data that we select. And the same names that we're purchasing for our clients outright in the credit space are the same names that the state of Ohio is utilizing within the Star Ohio program, which, if you're familiar with or not, is a liquidity option. But our clients just own those outright, so they get a little better yield on that.
Do you find that your internal analytics are sometimes differing from kind of the public ratings on those?
Yes. It's interesting you bring that up. So Credit Suisse, I'm going to get a little technical here.
That's fine.
Credit Suisse recently, there was some murkiness going into 2023 about their financials and stability, leading up to March of 2023 when we had the banking crisis, we can call it to some degree. It's the smaller level of 2008. But our team had some red alerts on that bank prior to that happening. And so none of our clients were in Credit Suisse at the time of that happening. So we're very, very selective on the names that we'll look to utilize within the program.
How does ESG factor into your strategy for selecting those corporate bonds?
Yeah, great question. We look at it. It's really up to the entity on the types of names if they want to place restrictions on the issuers that we're looking at. Typically, we're more finding in the financial space. So there's a difference between 3A3 paper versus 4.2, which is more private placement, which is where you would find more of that ESG-like names compared to the 3A3, which typically is more of the financial companies. But our clients have full access to say, hey, we don't want to utilize this name. Everything is customized specifically to what the city would be looking for.
Thank you.
Perfect.
What sort of reporting back to the commission would you provide us?
Yeah, so we can provide consolidated holdings reports. So they would list all of your investments. We can track all your cash vehicles. So you would have one consolidated report ready for you by the third, fourth business day of each month.
It would be a monthly report.
It'd be a monthly report, yes, sir. As well as annual.
Accessible as well, so we can post that on our website. so
Absolutely. Yep.
Citizens could see that as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
You can continue.
Oh, no, that
You had mentioned something earlier about Credit Suisse, and you guys kind of front ran that a little bit, which sounds that's good.
Yeah.
If, for instance, you weren't able to front run it, and there was some banking collapses during the past year, fortunately, the FDIC Infinity came in to alleviate that.
Yep.
Do you have any strategies for hedging if that maybe doesn't happen again? Trying to make sure that we have liquidity, especially even if the FDIC does pay out, that probably won't be instantaneous. Do you have any strategies to try to mitigate that, or are you trying to just front run those events?
Yeah, so negotiable CDs are typically where you find that with the FDIC, obviously coverage to that extent, which would really come into effect if we were overlapped on purchases, meaning we bought the same name twice and there was a default and the city would only be covered up to $250,000. The remaining $250,000 would be covered. We run a full, what we call our bank exclusion list to ensure that we're never overlapped on bank names to make sure that never happens to that extent. But to your point, I'm more on the credit side of things, which, that carry, I guess we can call that the riskiest asset class of what's allowed under state law. It's really us continuing to do our due diligence. And this just isn't a one-time thing at the time of purchase, which is very important with credit. It's an ongoing process. This is a weekly review of financials, a quarterly discussions with internal corporate issuers that we're seeing in the marketplace there. But again, to my point earlier, at any point in time, you have the full authorization to limit any particular asset class or any particular name that you would have there.
If we did proceed with you, it's probably a pretty long-term relationship. Do you foresee any regulatory changes that would add or remove acceptable asset classes on the horizon?
Under Ohio Revised Code, it's been pretty locked for some time. In the event with how tapped we are into the state, if there are changes to policy, we most certainly would present that to council. If there's something that we would see that we wouldn't agree with, that's most likely something we would recommend as well too. We haven't seen any big changes to state law as of late under an asset class side of things. Most recently, the state did allow municipal bonds to go out 10 years to purchase to some degree. Now, again, within the confines of the city, I wouldn't recommend that. But that is something that we would be able to bring to y'all's.
So even if a door is opened, you'd ask before you walked through it?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we basically say, here's what the state allows, and then everybody's a little different on our list about who is okay doing what from that standpoint. There are some cities, depending upon their charter, that actually stray from Ohio Revised Code and will be a little more exotic, you can call it to some degree. But that really just depends on the entity and what they want to see there. Yep.
All right.
Perfect. Good questions. And the last page is really just the simplicity of getting started. It's a really, really easy process. But I think the biggest thing to even hone in on too, so just to flip back here to the prior page, is that estimated net annual interest income of over $2.3 million. And the beauty of that is that's a real number in the fixed income world, because we're more times than not buying these securities, holding them till maturities, and that continues to compound over time. Perfect.
I guess what kind of guardrails do you have on between your different customers? Or is it all one big pool that you're investing in, or like certain groups are invested in one pool, or is our pool isolated?
Yeah, that's a great point. So this is not like a mutual fund per se. This is what we would classify as a separately managed account. So it's tied to the specific parameters of the city of Piqua. So we would open what would call an independent third-party custody account. So Meter as a full, we never have ability to touch your cash. We fully just have trading authority within that account. At any point in time, if you wouldn't be happy with our services, and knock on wood, you would be, you would fire us. There's a 30-day out. You own that account. You own the securities outright, and you can go on from business from there.
Does your company borrow against any of those holdings for other operations?
We don't. No, we don't. Yep. Great. All right. That's all I got. No more questions.
No, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you as well.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions, more questions to ask about this? How about citizens? Any citizen questions? Okay. So is there a motion for resolution number R-130-23?
I'd move the approval of R-130-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution number R-130-23 is approved.
Ship with NISC to really change significantly how we interact and work and do business with our utility customers. Not long after Paul came here, he asked if I was willing to take over responsibility for the utility business office. I was excited to do so because this is one of the most significant initiatives that I was trying to get accomplished, and I've been trying to get it accomplished since about 2015, so I was excited to get moving on it. In conjunction with this, we also were able to get our AMI system up and running prior to coming to commission 2 years ago. And I'll tell you, a big part of our success in the utility business office has been the hire of R.J. Monier as our utility business office manager. He's done a great job there. He's had a lot of experience with both the Claire AMI systems and the NISC customer information systems. And when we embarked on this 2 years ago, and we spent all of 22 getting ready for the conversion, it was a pretty big lift. And he led us through that. He led personnel in the power team, personnel in the utility business office, personnel in the finance department. Our customers have things like mobile apps on their phones they can do business with, which they've never had. They have utility bills that have a lot more information on them that help them make decisions a lot better than they were able to before. A lot of easier ways to pay bills, just a lot of really cool things that we've been able to provide them through our relationship with NISC. Right now, we've got a survey out to our utility customers. We're asking for feedback so we can help continue to really modify and continue to change and do the things that they would like for us to do to make it easier to do business with them. So we're looking forward to that. I think RJ is going to come in January and kind of present on that and give you an update on all the good things that are going on there. So this item went to Piqua Energy Board in October and was unanimously recommended for City Commission approval. And this legislation will allow us to continue to do business with NISC for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners?
I'm quite happy with my app and the utility business and being able to see all kinds of stuff. So it's been a good thing for us.
It's been amazing. I asked RJ for the latest stats. We have 2,340 customers that are doing paperless billing now, which those are customers that get their bills through the email. They don't have to, we don't have to put a stamp on a bill. It's just kind of one of those win-win things. And so again, we have lots of options. When we surveyed our customers over a year ago, we found out we have lots of different customers that like different things. So the nice thing about NISC is we can
we can provide technology options, and we can continue to do things the old-fashioned way, so.
Are there any comments or questions from citizens?
Adam Cease, 1853 West Parkway. I would say RJ's done a good job. I sat down and had a conversation with him when he first got in. He was very willing to answer questions. The app is fantastic. I don't know if nobody's gone in and figured out what it can do. I left a hose running, and before my bill went to, you know how high these bills can get around here, before my bill went up, I actually got a text alert that I had water running that was unusual. The only thing I could say that I would like to see maybe change, because I am one of those guys that I rely on the paper bill. I do everything. I run a business, so I have so many bills I have to pay. My paper bill sometimes comes on the 17th and it's due on the 20th. Like my gas bill, I get it, and you have a little more of an extended time to pay it. The only suggestion I have is maybe they could make, instead of after the 20th, you have to pay the extra 20 or 10 or $20, maybe they could extend that window a little longer, or have some kind of payment arrangement for people, because, I mean, a lot of times, and it's not the city's fault, I see when it's postmarked, but snail mail is snail mail, and we get them kind of slow, so it'd be nice for, especially for the older people, to maybe have a little more time to get that paid, but I think the system's fantastic.
I appreciate the input, and again, if you haven't had the chance, please get on and do the survey. Thanks.
Anybody else?
I would move the adoption of Resolution R-131-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution number R-131-23 is approved. Resolution number R-132-23.
A resolution authorizing the execution of the 2023 WASG Power Pool Participant Schedule with American Municipal Power, Inc., AMP.
Thank you. This item is somewhat of a housekeeping item. American Municipal Power, AMP, who is our power provider, among a lot of other things. The vast majority of our power supply comes through our relationship with AMP, and most of it comes through the projects that we participate in. Over the years, we've entered into agreements to take power from Prairie State, from Fremont, so we have a clean coal plant, a natural gas plant, we have hydro plants, we have solar facilities that we're part of, and are part of the two hosted facilities in town. But to a smaller extent, there's a portion of our power, about 10% of our typical monthly needs, that are handled through this pool agreement that we have. And the way it works is we're pooled with all the other members in our geographic area, and it's grouped by transmission system. So they're all the transmission customers that are on what used to be Dayton Power and Light, which is now AES Ohio. So in that power pool, the WSG power pool, which stands for Western Amp Service Group Pool, you have Arcanum, Salina, El Dorado, Jackson Center, Lakeview, Minden, Minster, New Bremen, Piqua, Tip City, Versailles, Waynesfield, and Yellow Springs. So really for the last part, or the last 10% or so of our power needs, all the members in that group work together, and we kind of pool our purchases and our imbalances, and everything gets balanced on an hourly basis. And I'm going to read a summary provided by AMP staff because I think it does a good job. But our municipal system is connected to the DP&L transmission system, which is operated by PJM. PJM controls the regional generation and transmission grid ranging from Illinois to New Jersey. To take advantage of economies of scale for power scheduling, forecasting, and short-term energy supply in PJM, AMP has aggregated its 13 member communities connected to the DP&L transmission system into the WASG power pool, the 13 that I just named. The pool agreement provides the rules and methodologies for allocating among the pool participants the charges and credits incurred by AMP for energy supply and transmission and generation delivery service. The pool agreement was last updated in 2006. During the past year, it became apparent there are new charges and credits associated with the PJM settlement process that we're not contemplating in the 2006 agreement. Additionally, AMP has found a need to update the assignment of other charges and credits to match the methods in which AMP is invoiced. So the updated pool agreement brings the contract up to date to formalize the way that the members are operating and invoice for power supply and delivery costs. Our long-term rate and power supply consultant, Sullivan Associates, Don Grudemeyer specifically, he came to our last Energy Board meeting and presented on this process. Don and other consultants that work with other members who are part of the process to update this agreement, and he was supportive of the changes in the agreement. And the Piqua Energy Board unanimously recommended that we move forward with this and allow the city manager to execute this revised agreement to basically update it to the way things are done today. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Just a comment, not a question. I think as we look in the surrounding area, again, this kind of an agreement really helps us serve customers well. And the bottom line is, when you look at your electric bill and you compare it to what you would be paying if you were an AES customer, once again, we demonstrate good management and the ability to deliver a quality product to our citizens, and that's why I'm in favor of the agreement.
And those benchmarks change over time. I've been here 26 years, and the vast majority of it, the time we've been significantly less costly than DP&L, and right now we're about 20 to 25% cheaper than what they provide. So it's a good place to be. I think we offer a superior product, much more reliable. We do have outages, but when we have them, they're quickly responded to. We've been tracking this for a long time. I think at one of the earliest years, we had as many as 250 or 60 outages in 1 year, and over time we've done a lot of things to address that. And right now we're tracking to come in about 40 for the total year. So we've really focused on that because it's important.
And my understanding is we won an award for that, for low outage occurrences.
Yeah, we always input our data into the database, and we come back as one of the first quarter tier utilities, the 25% best performing in the country.
Any other comments or questions from citizens? I move that we adopt resolution number R-132-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution number R-132-23 is approved. Resolution number R-133-23.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to reappropriate the fixed number of sworn staff in the Piqua Police Department from 35 to 38 sworn police officers for the mutual benefit of the Piqua Police Department and Piqua City Schools.
Good evening, Commissioners. As you know, Piqua City Schools and the City of Piqua Police Department have an existing relationship to provide the School Resource Officer Program, and we wish to expand the program by mutual agreement. And the school board met on November 16th and approved an MOU to allow the program's expansion by utilizing 3 additional SROs, school resource officers. And tonight we're seeking your approval to increase the City of Piqua Police Force sworn staffing level from 35 to 38 sworn officers to achieve this goal. Piqua City Schools will fully reimburse the funding for these officers, full salaries and benefits. They will only be utilizing the officers during the school year for 9 months, but they will fully fund for 12 months. So we'll receive monthly payments for full 12 months. So the police force will have an additional 3 months on force in those summer months. We believe that we know that we'll have, with your approval, 5 years of utilization for these SROs. We hope that it will continue in the future. We believe that it will. We believe that this is an extremely important investment in the community. Chief is here tonight with the MOU for your approval as well. but first we're seeking your approval to increase the sworn staff.
Just a quick question. How many, these are full-time, correct? These are full-time SROs.
Full-time sworn police officers.
How many do we have now?
We're at 35.
No. How many SROs
Oh,
do we have now?
SROs. We have,
We have 2 SROs currently. We have one at Piqua Central, and then we have one at the Piqua High School.
Okay. 'Cause I know I work at the junior high, and I think the one at Piqua High School is back and forth, maybe. Or no, we have a threat assessment officer. That's different. That's different. Okay, great. No, unfortunately, the world we live in, we definitely need them, so we would get 3 months of them in the summertime, but the school would cover their salary.
right.
Wow.
For 3 of them, yes.
For 3 of them. That's a great deal. Okay, thank you.
Would these positions be interchangeable with like other, going on patrol, or is it going to be the same person at each location for the full school year?
Ideally, to build the relationships, you want the same person at each building throughout the year, but they are interchangeable. They're sworn police officers. They will be on patrol during the summer months and during vacation or, Christmas break, et cetera. So they would be interchangeable.
Is there any difference in their uniform or armaments when they're acting as an SRO?
No, normally they would wear the uniform of the day. There could be alternative uniforms depending on what is going on. For example, like the career days and where they're outside with the, I can't recall what they call the Indian days, I think it is, where they're playing sports, et cetera. So, but day to day, they would be in uniform of the day.
I see this as a win-win.
Yeah.
Having been an SRO and a school officer for years, it's very
Yeah, and-
beneficial to the citizens, but very beneficial to the schools, and it's a win-win.
Does that mean we'll have one in every school then?
That's the goal.
Yeah,
yes.
their goal is to have an SRO in every school.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent, okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I do agree with my fellow commissioner that it's unfortunate that we need something like that, but I guess also fortunate that we are able to provide that.
Well, the state reimburses.
Right. All right, any other questions, comments? Citizen, question or comments?
Jeff Grimes, 1314 Maplewood Drive. I just had a question. Were you considering ever having the staff armed at the schools?
That would be for the school board to determine, and they've never approached us about that idea.
I would think that would be something that should be addressed also if the staff wanted to go through classes and be armed, another safety factor. Thank you.
Right, again, that would be up to the school board to make that determination whether they would go in that direction, and at this point, that's not where they want to go. But we did offer, if that was a decision they made, our full support and training and providing necessary equipment to make that happen. But again, that's not the direction that they chose to go in.
Thank you.
Anyone else comment or question?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number R-133-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution number R-133-23 is approved. Resolution number R-134-23.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Piqua City Schools for the City of Piqua Police Department to employ, train, evaluate, and supervise 3 school resource officers for the mutual benefit of the City of Piqua and Piqua City Schools.
Okay, this MOU is an agreement that would establish the needed commitment from both Piqua City Schools and the City of Piqua to pay for and equip these officers while they're assigned to each school building within the City of Piqua, and would also include through mutual aid agreement with the Sheriff's Department for Spring Creek School. So the document also provides a series of guidelines and policies on the performance of these officers while they're inside the school district's buildings. And just a little history on the SRO program and the request for this expansion, which touches on Mr. Grimes' question about arming staff. Piqua City Schools actually approached me with the request to expand the program into each one of their buildings because of pressure coming from the state to mandate, potentially in the near future, armed personnel within each building of a district. And in that request, I expressed to them that we'd be more than willing to provide that service, but it would require the commission to expand our approval for sworn personnel because we couldn't do it with our current staffing levels and still respond to calls for service within the city. And at that time, they were obviously told that it would require a financial commitment and not one that would be year to year. They were very open to both of those stipulations, and they had expressed to me that because of the direction it appears the state's going in, that they did explore every option in terms of whether it would be a private security firm arming staff, contracting with another agency, Miami County Sheriff's Department, for example, or through the Piqua Police Department. And because of our relationship with them that had already been established, it was clear to them they wanted the Piqua Police Department in their buildings. So they approached us, and then again, when we gave them what would be required, they didn't hesitate and asked if we could get it started that day. So they're committed to this program, and again, this term is stated for 5 years. That's the longest contract that they can provide by their bylaws or ordinance. But they again indicated that this isn't going away and that the funding's coming. Some of it's coming from the state, but they had they've had this budgeted, hoping that this day would come.
Great. Thank you. Questions or comments from commission?
I also want to add, just being somebody that's in the school system on a day-to-day basis, watching these officers interact with our students is invaluable. I mean, it really is, because, I always say, unfortunately, when the fire department comes, everybody's glad to see them, but when the police show up, you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But for some of our kids, this has enabled them, and I know Officer Walters, and now we have a service dog that is going out to the high school and really engaging with those students and providing a different look as to what that police officer can be for them. So I think it's a win-win, as we said before.
Would you be shifting existing officers into that SRO role and then hiring to backfill that, or are you hiring specifically for those roles?
Well, ideally, you'd have a seasoned officer that would volunteer for the position, but if we didn't have 5 volunteers, we would have to do so from the new hire pool. But it is of note, and it's a good question in terms of the training that they receive. The state does mandate that within 1 year of being in a school, they have to be certified as a school resource officer. So regardless of who it is, they would go through that training as soon as we could get them in.
That was my next question. I do have a few more though. Are the schools, are they receptive when you guys have feedback about threat assessment, recommendations for hardening the building, controlling access points, things like that? Are they receptive and actioning on those recommendations?
Yeah, they actually initiate those conversations each year, and it's a requirement from the state as well that we do threat assessments not only for the structure but for the staff and the students. So we do provide input, and they generally react to that to the point that it's becoming less and less each year because we have it in a good place. And then, anytime any technology changes that could support safety, they take advantage of that through the grants they get from the state directly related to student and staff safety. And as far as threat assessments go for the students and the staff, our officers actually sit in on those threat assessments to provide feedback not only for what's going on in the school, but what that student may be facing in the community that may be causing them to react the way they are. So we can address it in both areas to hopefully bring support to that student both inside the school and outside. So, yeah, we're directly involved in that.
Do you have a sense of kind of what the current officers, how they feel about that? Do you you think you're going to have 5 people wanting to apply for that?
I don't think we'll have an issue filling the 5 positions now.
And then can you briefly comment on kind of how our surrounding neighbor cities are handling similar situations versus how we're doing it?
Well, each district is obviously different in the number of officers that are in the buildings, each building, and each of them vary in terms of the reimbursement. Ours would be the only one that I'm aware of that they're paying for a full 12-month service for each of the officers. But I do know that the most recent example would be Tip City. They just went to their commission, I'm going to guess it was within the last 4 months, and they got approval for additional officers to be allotted, and then they hired them into the schools as well. So every district is working to get an officer in each one of their buildings, and some of them just have different ability to pay, and so that reflects differently in the number of hours that they're at that building. And Greenville, Ohio is another police department that is currently hiring SROs, but they didn't have the interest from within the department, so they are advertising that it's an SRO position immediately upon hiring. So every community is doing this exact same thing. It's just like police officers, we're all trying to hire the same kids, so.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we approve resolution number R-134-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution number R-134-23 is approved. It's now time for public comment. And at this time, it's an opportunity for citizens to address the City Commission on agenda items. Comments are requested to be limited to 5 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Larry Hamilton. I live at 1104 Maplewood Drive. A people without knowledge of their past is like a tree without roots. I do want to say, Mayor, I support your objection. Tuesday evening is my Bible study, and if it's earlier, the PA announcements are earlier, I have an opportunity to get out of here and get to my Bible study. So I do want to make an announcement concerning We the People, Miami County. And there will be a social gathering at the Randolph and McCulloch Freedom Struggle Complex at 655 North Main Street here in Piqua tomorrow evening from 6 to 7:30. And this will be a social gathering. And this is a group or organization that is opposed to dark money in politics and in opposition to corporations asserting they are people too and have the same rights as individuals. So if you are somewhat like-minded, you might come and gather with those people under the presidency of Deb Hogshead of Troy, Ohio. Also, I would like to comment on the fact that I was told and given the impression by a city official that rock and soil and debris was being collected at the Lock 9 site and being transported around the loop and dumped on the other side of the loop over the levee along the embankment areas. I think the person misspoke, and I can certainly recognize that what is being dumped along the embankment area seems to be new quarried rock. And my question is, where does that start? And also, I would like to know, was there any consideration given to the sandbars so that we could take the sand and the rock of the sandbars and use that on the embankments and allow a free flow of water within the channel areas? So I'll take my seat and allow you to answer that question.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. So it's a combination, the debris that was distributed by MCD along the riverbank at the bottom of the levee, essentially took the broken up concrete that was lining the levee where Lock 9 Park was going. They collected it in a pile just north of the project site, and MCD delivered that material upstream and reutilized that crushed concrete, and they topped it with 57 stone you're absolutely right, it's quarried stone that they put on that. And I believe they built that road, the gravel on top of the broken concrete, so that they could get their equipment up the levee to go ahead and make those repairs. As for why they choose what they do and the methodology they use for construction, I would, ask that you contact them and their chief engineer. It's outside my pay grade to make an engineering decision like that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Somebody.
Jeff Grimes, 1314 Maplewood Drive. They had a meeting with the EPA and RAPCA, and I was very dissatisfied with that meeting, and I would suggest that we have another meeting to address the small group of individuals' concerns about the battery burning. And if maybe we could have some type of a town hall meeting like we did with the rental registration, where the citizens were able to ask the EPA and RAPCA and the city officials. Has anybody heard from Nick Warner lately?
No. No.
So one of the things that concerned me was the EPA stated that he went over, or they went over their authority to burn these batteries. So will the city hold them responsible for the burning of these batteries and the cleanup, or is there any type of, I think the EPA said that they could be fined. Will the city consider suing ESRG over their overstepping and burning these batteries?
As of this time, Nick Warner was cited with violating the nuisance part of
Frank,
the...
use your microphone.
Nick Warner was cited with violating the nuisance part and violating, not getting a permit for the concrete pad that he had. That's it. As of now, there's no damages to the city. We have done testing for the water. It came back safe. We're getting testing done on the ground. If that comes back that it's contaminated, then potentially we could look at Nick Warner or ESRG. And with the air modeling, the EPA is handling that, and we'll have to wait and see what the results of that say, and then we would look at our options. But at this point of time, there would be no cause of action because, first of all, you have to have damages, and we don't have anything yet to even say we have to clean anything up.
And you're satisfied that the EPA was never out there and did any testing?
Look, I'm not.
Now everything's
thrilled with
good?
The EPA on their handling of this matter, but that's not my bailiwick nor anybody in this room, and is to monitor the EPA. The testing that's being done is being done by an outside source that the city has hired. The air modeling, quite frankly, the EPA is probably the only organization that knows how to do it. So yes, we're going to rely on the EPA.
So they put in these water traps without the correct permits, and then they were allowed to fill them in with dirt. Shouldn't those have been removed if they didn't get the proper permits?
I'm not sure how they were even removed. I really don't.
They weren't removed. They filled them in with dirt. So if you don't have the proper permit, how can you allow those to stay there?
The permit was that they didn't get a permit to put them in.
But they did.
It was not that they were put in incorrectly or anything of that nature.
But they put them in.
Yes, I understand
Right.
that.
So why aren't they being forced to remove them?
They were buried, apparently. You're saying they were buried. I have no knowledge of that.
Somebody needs to have knowledge.
Apparently.
Who
that's
has knowledge of
provided.
this?
You know what? That's certainly something that can be looked into.
I would hope so. I would hope that a lot of stuff would be looked into, and I'm not satisfied. This is not going away. I'll be here every day or every time the city commission is until I get my answers. How can you test the air now? How long has it been since they burned batteries? A couple months? How are you going to test the air?
Obviously, the air that's out there now is safe. We understand
now?
that. So the air modeling is done by the EPA. They go back, they look at the possible chemicals that came off of the battery and do studies on it. They have people that do this. They have experts that do this for a living. And so what we are doing is waiting for their results.
Okay, I want another town hall meeting, and I have questions
Their time's about up.
to the EPA, to RAPCA, to all of you folks. Oh, wow. So how much did it cost to get the water tested, and who paid for that? The citizens of Piqua?
Yes,
And how much was that?
I don't have the amount on the top of my head.
We can look into that and get back to you with that number.
So how do I get my questions answered? Do I have to email them to you? Because I don't know if I've ever had one of my questions answered up here yet.
I would suggest.
So can you get back with me on that?
Absolutely. If you want to email either one of us, that's fine.
And then why should the citizens of Piqua have to pay for that when ESRG is the one that is
Well,
responsible
currently,
for it?
because there hasn't been showing that there's any environmental contamination for any of the activity that they've done out there. The ground tests are being done. We'll see what that does. The water testing came back that it was clean and safe to drink. Our water sources were safe. Now, just because people come up and say, well, the area was contaminated, doesn't mean that you can go to court and say, well, Jeff Grimes said it was contaminated, so we should get damages. A court's going to require you to have evidence. We have no evidence at this point in time that any contamination happened out there. If contamination occurs, then we will look at our options.
So tell me what happened to the 100,000 pounds of batteries that were burned. Where'd that stuff go?
Your time's up.
You're not going to answer that question?
First of all, they were tested. They weren't all burned. And apparently, you don't even know the size of the burns. You don't know how much came off of it. Nobody really does.
That's the problem. Nobody knows.
All right.
You guys get paid to do this stuff, and nobody knows. We had Jeff Lang up here, and he said there was 100,000 pounds of batteries burnt. Where do you think that stuff went? Did it go to Disney World?
I don't know how Jeff Lang came up with his numbers. That's Jeff Lang's calculation. I don't know if it's accurate. I don't know what burned off of it.
That's the problem. You guys don't know anything. You're supposed to run the city. You're supposed to know what's going on.
Thank you.
Alicia Lang, I feel like I live at 9300 State Route 66. So I guess I just want to share some things that are concerns of mine. And a lot of people here and maybe try to address some of the numbers and some of the testing. So, first of all, one of the things that really irritates me when I'm reading through the MOU, okay, specifically the one from 2018. So I'm reading through it, and it says on there that this is supposed to be training for 450 people, and then I'm looking at the old water plant like, where in the hell are you going to put 450 people, right? Like, if this is really training for 450 people, where are they going to go out there, right? Where are you going to put 450 bodies out there? And then where are they going to park? Logistically, it doesn't make sense. So who was supposed to think that part over? Because I don't think even that part was thought through, okay? the FUA wasn't attached. I'd like to see that. Addressing the training or the burning of the batteries. So the reporting, there was 3 years submitted by ESRG. I have the reporting through a public records request, okay? So one of the things about that is it has weight of the battery. So if this company was here doing battery testing and training, right? And this man, Nick Warner, has nanotechnology and training in his background, and nano is a 10 to the negative 9th power. It's very small, okay? So you would think a man that knows how to do this kind of math would be very technical in his calculations and in his research. I would think I would be if this was my livelihood, okay? So a lot of holes in his data, okay? He has no hydrogen cyanide, has no hydrogen fluoride in his data collection at all. So just with those two, in discussing this with the EPA and RAPCA, myself, I have a video of this discussion that I spoke with them, so there is no discrepancy. It's on Facebook, okay? For the whole world to see. They don't have these two chemical compounds. They don't have them. They didn't collect them. They don't have the data. Just those two chemical compounds alone is not enough data to do the air model dispersion testing, which brings me to my main gripe with the director of the Ohio EPA, who has failed us also. How dare she go on the news media and say that she's seen air dispersion modeling that she couldn't possibly have. I'd like to see it because I've requested it through RAPCA and through the Ohio EPA. They don't have it, haven't given it to me. They told me maybe they could have the certain things to me by Thursday. So I don't know what report she saw, and I don't know how she can state that the smoke did not come into our town and that it dissipated, because I have 911 calls that are from our fire chief called that state that are public record. Anyone can go down to 911 and get these. It says that he wanted to let people know that there would be light smoke in the area from about 10 a.m. until the afternoon. So that to me says, hey, if there's light smoke in the area, that means it didn't disperse. That means there's potential that it was in the area, right? That 100,000 pounds that Jeff was talking about, he was adding up 2023, the data submitted by ESRG. There's that lack of data, I should say. The weights that are there are approximate. Like I said, Nick Warner, faulty scientist if you ask me, he should have exact weights. Do you know what the start weight was? Very heavy. That's technical, right? So it started out very heavy. 40,000 pounds is the amount of debris that remained after the burn. After. He burned it after, or he weighed it after. So the 40,000 pounds is what remained after. It wasn't a puff of smoke. We're talking an unimaginable amount of smoke. I don't even know how big that is, okay? We have people, do you know that there's a woman that works at Hampshire Cabinet that's going blind? Her cornea has been eaten over the past few years. Doctor doesn't know why. There's a man that has lumps everywhere over his body. There's a high school kid that has lumps on his head. There's girls at the high school with tumors. One passed away. One's barely holding on. There's a lot of different cancers, things going on. There's a woman that lives down the street. Hands are so raw, she has to cover
Your
them with
time is about to
Vaseline. Good,
expire.
thank you. That has Vaseline, has to put Vaseline on her hands and put gloves on her hands because the wind blowing hurts so bad. Okay, there's fishermen that come up twice a week. One of those men has lumps too. Can't explain them. Doesn't know the other guy. This is insane. This is insane. You need to do better, and the Ohio EPA needs to be held accountable.
Dana Park, Brunson. I've heard a lot tonight about MOUs. Can you tell me, do you need resolutions to pass the MOUs? I've heard you talking about MOUs, and Do you guys need a resolution to pass an MOU?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm not sure yet.
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
So, let's say even an MOU with Bowling Green, would you need a resolution and for you guys to see it and pass it?
I believe we did do that. Yeah, we did.
I believe the joint use agreement was passed by
Right.
the commission.
No, I'm talking about an MOU though. So, would you need to look at it and have a resolution to pass it?
Does he- Frank,
I really don't know if the original MOU had it. I wasn't here at the time. I don't know if it was passed by commission or not.
I know we
Basically,
passed
a
the joint.
memorandum of understanding. Every memorandum of understanding doesn't have to be brought before commission.
Why wouldn't it?
Because there's,
No, Frank, you can't start getting
ma'am, I'm
nasty
trying to
or
answer your
anything.
question. Now,
Okay,
give me a
so
second, and
why-
I'll answer your question.
Why wasn't there an MOU in 21?
I wasn't here at the time when that first MOU was brought, so I don't
There
know
was
if
a
there
MOU in
was.
18. There wasn't an MOU in 21. We don't have
Right,
an
the
MOU
21
approved
one, I
by
don't,
anybody.
I don't even, look, I don't know, quite frankly, if there was an ordinance or resolution adopting those. I don't.
I do, I have it in front of me.
In 2018, I wasn't here at the time that resolution or that memorandum of understanding was passed or was signed. In 2021, I don't remember. There are hundreds of ordinances that come through
So
here.
why
and
was it
resolutions.
important in 18 and why didn't you pass it? Why didn't you get to see it? You wouldn't know what was in it then. You didn't have the agenda notes.
A memorandum of understanding is understanding of the parties that this is what we would like to happen. The parties can get out of it.
So instead,
The joint
you-
use agreement that you saw is for a particular time period, it's for a particular number of years, and it has commitments on each side of it. A memorandum
So
of
only you
it,
and Paul got to sit and figure this out and make this and
a
say
memorandum of
600.
understanding sometimes says this is what we are going to agree to in the future. It doesn't mean that it happens. We've entered into memorandums of
Okay.
understandings that don't happen all
Well,
the
thanks
time.
for, I appreciate that, but there wasn't one. You didn't get to see it. It wasn't passed like I would think normally the public would get to find out that there was a MOU. I think that's dishonest. There's reports, $5,000, $10,000. I got one before they locked it in about all the damage that was done out on 66. See, I guess they have disclosure agreements that they sell these to all these different companies. Some go for 200,000. Heard tell them what they were burning. But the data for 23 shows that 24 items of data are missing the weight. They're missing the chemistry. We don't know the chemistry. They were burning solar in 2019. We have no idea what they were burning. If they were burning nuclear, you cannot test without the data. You can sit and look up there all you want. We need the data
Ma'am,
to
I'll tell you.
know.
So here, you want me to answer your question?
I'm speaking.
Then don't look at me
No,
and say
I'm
you can look up there.
I'm speaking.
So-
This is personal now.
Oh,
It's
if
my
you'd like to talk
grandson
after
now.
work, afterwards, that's
No,
fine.
you have to answer this
I
stuff.
will answer your questions, okay?
Yeah, I'm telling you what I
So-
know. I know more than you know, it seems like.
So here's the situation. The city got permits for ESRG and BSGSU that permitted lithium-ion batteries. In those permits, you want me to answer?
40-some thousand pound. You keep on acting like you
There
were
was
doing
no
everything right. It
restriction
wasn't
on
being done
size.
right.
The only restriction in those permits was it could not create a nuisance. Most of the burns were small in size. There were some large burns. I don't know the exact weight.
We
As
were not
far
told
as
this.
damages, we are going through and doing what we can do now to establish if there was any damage to the property.
Yeah.
And also to the damage of the
I didn't
water. We
sleep
have
last night.
already,
I didn't sleep last night, did you?
I sleep very well.
I bet you do.
When it
You know what
comes
it is?
to
It's a lack of
water,
spiritual with you.
I'm sorry.
Diana.
When it
Lack
comes
the
to water,
spiritual, it's a darkness here.
I know, I'm a lawyer.
It's a
So
spiritual attack
when it comes
going
to,
on, and you are possessed by something.
Diana,
Diane, you're
Diana,
fine.
you're out of line.
Thank you.
It's the truth.
Thank you.
Who does
Thank you.
this to the people and tells them it's fire training? This is darkness. It's evil.
Diane, thank you.
so for the commissioner's edification, the city has listened to that data, will release it to the public. So far, the water data has come back that there is no contamination to our water system. We have a $50 million water treatment plant that can take heavy metals and about anything out of the water. The water actually going into the plant is very clean. The water coming out is very clean based on the data that we received. The ground samples will come back to us probably sometime in the next couple of months. When that comes to us, we'll look and evaluate the data. If it appears that the ground has been contaminated by ESRG, and that may be difficult to prove, then we'll look at possibly going after ESRG for any cleanup that would occur. As far as the air sampling, that's the EPA. We don't have, and I don't know of any organization that has the ability to do air modeling, and that's where we stand today.
Right. Thank you. Any other comments?
No burning ever out there again, ever. It's too close to our water.
No.
You guys are all complicit. The EPA, OPA, you're all complicit. I don't believe anything any of you say.
Hi, Melanie Walker, 526 North Wayne. I just wanted to thank the city for all of the Christmas decorations. They are beautiful. It made it an amazing weekend with Christmas on the Green and the parade, and along with Sounds of the Season through the Arts Council. It was just, if you did not get down there, you missed out on a whole lot. So I just wanted to share that the city did an amazing job with that. And the other thing is I'd like to say thank Cindy and Casey for your time that you've put in up here, because I know it's been rough lately.
Thank you.
So, but thank you so much for what you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Hitchings, 305 Westview. You just mentioned, Frank, you just mentioned that $50 million water plant.
Yes.
Takes all the contaminants out and all that. Do they even test for lithium?
They tested in the sampling that we just had done. That was done
I mean-
because of people complaining. They tested for lithium. And lithium, there was not any significant amount of lithium in our water supply system, actually going into it or coming out of it.
But the last I heard, they weren't going to start testing that until 25.
Because of all of this, the city went ahead and tested for a series of heavy metals.
I hadn't heard
And
of
that, because of that, they did that. They tested for a whole series. There was, based on the results, there was really no real concern about anything going into the system of our water sources, and there was no concern of anything coming out. Thank you.
I hadn't heard that. Thank you.
Had those test results been published on the website?
Yeah, I believe they were in the agenda packet last meeting, but we'll be sure. We're going to set up actually to address a lot of this and consolidate all the information. We're going to have a website just for the public training, or the Public Safety Training Center, and it'll have a compilation of all that data, but included in that will be what the center's really meant to do, and so we're going to start talking about that after we get through the cleanup period. Once things are suitable, we'll invite the public out next year and take a look at it for themselves.
Yeah, I guess I'd encourage people who are curious about the testing to go find that agenda packet on the website and find the results. What they showed was what the testing was on the water as it was going into the plant, a couple of locations on surface water, I believe, and then what the values were coming out of the plant. And there was, probably 50, 75 different chemicals and compounds they were looking for. Yes. And they were all the ones that are known to have been emitted or could be emitted from burning batteries. So it was the important ones. It wasn't that they were skipping, certain chemicals to try to hide stuff. It looked like they were all in there. If you guys take a look at that, if there's a particular chemical that you see that's not on there, certainly please raise that concern.
Are there any other public comments?
Craig Neves, 1012 West Green Street. Was that an independent company that tested for the,
Yes.
Yes, WSP was an independent firm that was agreed to by the OEPA as well as the city. As a professional background, they've done work for both agencies before.
I'd like to know, how much did we pay for the Red Roof Inn out there?
The specific number I'd have to give, but it's approximately $1.85 million.
Do you know how much that property's worth?
Well, there again, it would be speculation until we get the Red Roof Inn demolished and secure the current agreement with the hotel that's outstanding. We have the presidential approval for a sit-down restaurant, national brand. So all of those things would factor into the future value of the property. So right now, it would be, I'm not a realtor, so it would be speculation.
Well, right now, it's worth $794,000. There was $9,311 in back taxes. That comes to $803,000, $711.75. So we paid $1.8 million for a property that's worth $803,000.
The auditor's value doesn't reflect what commercial value is, and so essentially you're looking at, if you pull up your own home, it's going to be valued about a third of, or I'm sorry, 66% of what the actual market value would be. So it's really hard to, you can't consolidate commercial real estate into what the auditor's website says. I can tell you that if we allowed the developer to bring the convenience store and gas station that wanted to buy the property, they would have paid over the $1.8 million and not even thought about it. So it was a matter of getting control of that to avoid having two gas stations next to each other and to do, and now I have a slide actually that I'll pull up during my report that'll show, excuse me, what the site will look like. And that's simply because the commission and the city administration saw the benefit of taking control of the site and being able to get what the community wanted, which was a name brand hotel, a name brand sit-down restaurant, and potentially a convenience drive-through restaurant as well.
We've already got two name brand hotels out there.
No, this is a different strata of hotels. So when we talked to the business community, we had a hotel study done that pointed to the fact that we want a national brand that had a registration system that earned points that the business community would use. And so based on those factors, that's why we had, at one time, we had two offers or two potential offers on a hotel to go out there. And currently we're working on getting one of those two to land.
Where did the funds come from?
It was through debt service.
Through what?
Through debt service, short-term debt service, so it's a lending instrument.
Do you know the name of the debt service?
I'd have to look all that up for you. I'd be happy to. If you want to email me, I can certainly get that to you.
All right, I'll do that.
Yep. If you go to the city manager's webpage, you click on my name, and it'll say email. It'll pull up email, and you can just email me directly.
All right, thank you.
Paul, was that purchased with a debt service instrument just kind of because you were hoping to flip it quickly? It wasn't going to be a long-term asset hold?
Correct. It's a short-term hold, and it's basically bridging. Getting control of the site was the most important thing because we had an unwilling property owner. So we managed to get control of this site, and that gives the developer time to get the hotel due diligence on the hotel and the deal done on that. The restaurant's already been approved, and as we move forward, we have the demolition program with the state that we're going to leverage some funding, hopefully, to go ahead and take down the red roof before March of next year. It's an eyesore. And certainly as we move forward, all these fees are reimbursable through the development agreement.
Adam Cease, 1853 West Parkway. I'd like to go back to the BZA and the Planning Commission and clarify some of what I was saying. I just don't think it's fair, like someone else said, to people that are applying for the BZA. I have not done so yet. I'm kind of busy as it is, but I may do so. But I don't think it's fair to just move those people over. The original intention of the Planning Commission was to be the Planning Commission. The original intention of the BZA was to be the BZA. And you're going to give people, power that they weren't originally intended to have. That's my concern. You know, personally, I know a lot of people on the planning commission. I like them. One of them's a good Browns fan. Go Browns. But, you know, I don't think it's fair. It's kind of like being elected in the House of Representatives and they decide to combine the two together, and now all of a sudden you have the House and the Senate. That wouldn't happen. So I don't think it should happen here. I guess there's two ways. I was talking with a commissioner that's about to take over, and we discussed, you know, we could leave it the way it is, or we could agree that, you know, if those people want to reapply, then they reapply. I just think that would be a better way to do it. To the police chief, I think the officers in the school is a great idea. I mean, I worked for Piqua City Schools for 4 years. I'm still technically on their sub list. We loved our resource officers. There's one of my elementary ones right there. You know, during Bruce Jameson's time, and I call it the Bruce Jameson approach. Bruce did a lot to connect kids, and Bruce is a friend of mine. Bruce did a lot to connect kids, and especially in high school and junior high, with the police department. I mean, driving bus, I got to hear kids talk about things, and it was great to see that. And that's the one thing this city has that I think is fantastic is our police department. Yep. You know, you're going to have your people, like Frank said. People don't like lawyers. I like Frank personally. Don't like lawyers, but I like Frank. You know, if you do something wrong, obviously you might dislike the police department, but 95%, 99% of citizens appreciate what the police do, and it's nice to have that connection with the community. I call it the Bruce Jameson approach, but maybe we'll start calling it the Rick Byron approach. I think that's great, and I'm all for that. I'd just like to see some positivity up here. I would also like to ask, though, let's say these results come back, and there is some stuff that is damaged to our community. Are we going to hold those people accountable?
We'll look at it. I mean, first, as I was trying to explain earlier on, you have to prove things. You can't just go and tell people,
business,
well,
I'm actually getting
these
ready to go
people are
through
coming
some
to the
stuff.
Piqua City Commission meeting and say we're contaminated. You have to have evidence. It's just like anything else. And you have to show that, first of all, if there is any contamination out there. We know the water right now is, so they look at the ground. So if there's contamination out there, is it related to the battery burns? We had a water treatment plant out there for a year. How do we distinguish the difference if there are different chemicals? We don't know. We don't know, first of all, if there's going to be anything that comes back bad or not. That's why we're having the test done. So we'll wait and we'll see. As far as the air modeling is concerned, I mean, I don't even know how you would prove any. I mean, right
They
now,
actually have, from what I've researched, they have like different instruments around this area that know where the air went, you know, know the air direction that day, and they can, to an extent, model where this stuff went. That's how they did it over in East Palestine. I don't know how long it'll take them, but it'll be nice to see.
And that's my understanding what they are doing, but even if it, I mean, I don't know what the results would be. I don't know how. Okay, let's say you had a chemical in the air. How long does it stay in the air? How far does it dissipate? Was anybody even around during that time? And did anybody go to the hospital? Did anybody register a complaint at that time? Those are the types of things you have to show. It's not simply, well, so-and-so has this over here, it must be from that. No, you have to have proof. And unless we have that proof, there's nothing going forward. And that's part of the reason for doing these tests, so that we can establish whether or not
there's something worth
whether there
going
is
after
something
or
to
not.
look after also.
I started a Facebook group a few years back, and I know my time's about up. I would like, you know, to work on these issues with the city, but also be positive. As a business owner, as someone who's vested in this community, you know, I would like us to have good, you know, people to look at us as a good place to come. Who wants to come here when we're burning batteries? So I'm glad we stopped that. It's just what I hear from people, and I talk to people, and some of you know, I know a lot of people in this town, and the one thing that they've said to me over the years, and it's gotten better, so we're going in the right direction, but people see the city as this big bad wolf. You know, we've done great with the utility department. I have no complaints about them anymore. We're working on it, but I just think community involvement, listening to people, trying to get more people involved. I think taking the BZA and that and combining it takes community involvement away. We just need to advertise it and get people out there. And I know they're trying, but I'll advertise it. I'll apply. So that's all I have. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a comment on that last part with the BZA. One of the things that's affecting my decision is if they can't get to a quorum, then that causes friction problems. If you guys, if we end up keeping it, you guys got to stay like hawks on the people on that board. They can't be,
people gotta volunteer.
they can't be missing quorum if it is allowed to continue on. Because again, if I understand everybody's point, I think I feel the same way, that you need to have some kind of, I don't know, secondary party in that, some kind of third party. Yeah, but if they're not going to show up and it's just going to be a stopping roadblock, that causes issues.
All right, anyone else? All right, city manager report.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for being patient to get to this part of the meeting. Instead of getting a report, I just want to give a community update. We have 2 meetings left this year. There's been a lot of really wonderful things that have happened throughout the community. And again, we haven't taken advantage of the fact that we have a lot to celebrate. And so in doing that, one of the things that we've done is hired a new public information officer. Michelle Perry's with us this evening. She's currently the executive director of the Piqua Community Foundation. She's going to be an outstanding part of our team, and we're all excited. She's going to have a focus on just, not only, communications with the residents, but the stakeholders and the businesses, and really talk about and celebrate the things that the town does. And Mr. Cease, that's a very valid point, that we haven't done that. And it's one thing that for the last 3 years that we've struggled with as a community, I should say as a city administration. Part of that is just, having the information easy to get to, have a website that's you can navigate and get the information from. That takes people and capacity, and so having this new position is going to be very critical. We'll have now 2 people that do public relations and not just one. But if you'd like to step up and just say hello, it's not a hot seat.
And I would also mention she's a Ward 1 resident, and I'm we have a relationship through the ward.
I'm Michelle Perry, 745 South Downing Street. So I am excited to join the city team and to help to proactively share the positive things that are happening, making sure that we have public voice in what's happening, and that we're kind of anticipating questions that can come up and being as forthcoming as possible and transparent, and sharing that out with the community. So I look forward to working with all of you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We
Thank you
appreciate
for your
Thank
willingness.
you.
Thank you. And she'll be starting January 29th. Yep.
Thank you.
So another good announcement, we just hired a community service director, Kyle Hinkleman, who is currently the Covington Township Administrator, Township Administrator? Village Administrator, thank you. And Kyle has a very long background in planning, IT resources, GIS, all the things that make up a planning, zoning, and engineering department. Understanding that we've been really inundated with economic development opportunities, and that Chris Schmeezing has been doing the work of 2 people. It really hasn't been fair to him or the community to try to get one person to do 2 people's jobs. So we've hired Kyle, wonderful talent, to bring on board. He'll be overseeing planning, zoning, and the engineering functions in the city. Chris will be focused on economic development and many inquiries we get from Jobs Ohio, and following up on that. So we're glad to have him start. He'll be starting on January 8th. Just a couple of quick photos. This I took about 3 weeks ago. Lowhead Dam, you can see where the gates are broken and laying in the water. So we're impounding about 16 inches of headwater here. It was decided over a year ago not to make the repairs and charge the power department, $30,000-$40,000 to reset all these, knowing that there was going to be demolition. This is a rendering that's been floating around for a while of just a concept of what it will look like when you remove the Lowhead Dam structure and put some stream intervention in. We've had one public meeting just a couple of weeks ago, and there'll be a few more of those as we go along and develop what we want to see in our river. My bad. Atomic City Bridge, another great project that just wrapped up. This is the new bridge, Atomic City Bridge. We just paved the parking lot adjacent to it. Eventually, we would like to see a put-in takeout spot here, but that's down the road. We have to do some engineering. It does reconnect the trail and now allows 2 ways to cross the river instead of just one. Downtown projects, everybody loves the fact that there are no more delineators and flower pots and accidents and crash Piqua footage. However, it has really improved things. There was some ideas that changing the direction on Market Street might have been problematic, but we've had no complaints. And also, too, our sign department worked with the Piqua Caldwell Historic District to do some signage specific to their downtown HOA. This is a little bit early, but I'm going to show everybody. This is the first rendering of some concepts for what we're looking for downtown. There's going to be several charrettes over the next year that we're going to talk about what does the community want to see with the downtown and how does that integrate with Market Street Park and Artisan Alley that runs beside Winans and over to Lock 9. So this is just one concept that they came up with, that OHM came up with. So we'll be setting up those meetings over the winter to have public input. Just some quick photos. This is the golf course and some of the improvements that were made for this year. This is the inside of the clubhouse, the small vending area. You can see the merchandise over on the back wall. That was scaled down, but actually is more profitable now. And this is the new furniture that's out there. And this is just a shot. This was during our city employee appreciation picnic, and one of our employees is out there hitting golf balls. Lock 9, just an update. This is actually 3 weeks. Yeah, this is 3 weeks old, so it's quite an old photo. Since this photo, they've completed the stadium seating and the back foundations for the pavilion, and they've been continuing to grind away at the concrete work, and that'll be wintered over from December until probably March of next year, where they'll complete phase 3, and we are hoping to have a ribbon cutting for Memorial Day. This is just another rendering and shows the Piqua Mill buildings, and then if you look over to the right, you can see the performance pavilion, and again some in-stream intervention so that we have some riffles and playtime. There's been a lot of questions about why is the ground tiered over there in front of Crooked Handle. It looks really bizarre, and it's hard to explain to folks that what this rendering indicates is the walkway that's adjacent to Crooked Handle. To be ADA compliant has to be a 12-to-1. So to get from street grade down to the lock grade where the performance pavilion will be, you can see that long, very intentional grade that goes down through the park, and then where the tree grove is, the grass strips, and then you can see the steps. It'll be terraced down to that level, so folks don't have to bring a chair if they want to sit down. There's some steps to sit down or spread a blanket out on the grass. Again, this is another rendering. Currently, there's a grove of scrub trees that are in front of the old Moe's building. We're working to get grant funding to take out that tree grove and to clean up the embankment, and again, put in a take-in, take-out spot on the river, and then redevelopment of the Moe's building into potentially a restaurant with the outfitter down below. And again, this is another rendering that's been around of just Lock 9 in the early development. If you look at the pavilion up in the right-hand corner, that was the original design. It has Core 10 steel beams on it and concrete columns. It was very expensive. While it's beautiful, it was a very expensive endeavor. So we value engineered that into a signature pavilion, it's a steel frame with a fabric cover over the top of it. When you would think of that, you would think, well, geez, does it last 5 years, 10 years? The company that designs these have these that have been in use for 30 years with the original fabric. So it is a long-term fabric with a very good return on investment. We saved quite a bit of money as we did the redesign and the value engineering, so much so that we stayed in budget, and we're going to add restrooms that were not in the original plan. The original plan did not have restroom facilities. It would have meant that people would have had to lean on Crooked Handle, Winans, whoever, referees, Scottish Thistle, and we didn't feel that that was appropriate for the city to do that. So we found cost savings to install public restrooms up top, and then as part of the development agreement with the Moe's building, down below on the trail grade, there'll be restrooms, public restrooms as well on the south side. So there'll be 2 sets. again, this is just a very quick schematic about some of the development that's taking place, and people talk about, what are we doing with economic development? The orange is Artisan Alley, and so we're going to be actually doing that design over the winter into next year, and that'll connect the Quads and Market Street Park so that we'll have a complete pedestrian pathway that leads from the Fort Piqua Plaza over to Lock 9. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner, it says Lock 9 Townhomes. Initially, they had talked about having 12 townhomes there, but the market dictated that now there's 30 apartments, which are going to be market rate apartments for young, potentially, young professionals or people that are empty nesters. So we're very excited at that product, and as you can see, the finishes are very in tune with what we have downtown architecturally. So that'll be coming as well. The Piqua Center, again, the mall, they have what's coming is food, entertainment, retail, and flex business incubator, and they've so far leased up the business incubator side. We have a tour with the commission set up for next week to go through that space, and one of the main features will be the food hall and the vendors that are there, so we have other optional dining opportunities and gaming and things of that nature. And then they've been working on Hero Day, which is a kind of a cross between a Jumpy House and American Ninja for kids. So that's going to be a great addition, and it's underway and already been, the lease has been signed. Back to your, I might have left, but this is again the rendering of the current Red Roof Inn site with the hotel, the national hotel chain and national sit-down restaurant that we're working on getting. And as you can see up on the left-hand corner by the Speedway, there's an open area of parking that could be configured for a drive-through convenience restaurant, not a Chick-fil-A, but some other brand. And so this is just some renderings and photos of what it is. And the national chain elevates our hotel room options from the two current flags that we have to something that's more suitable for the business community. And that's the end of my report for this evening.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay. Vice Mayor Lee.
No comment.
Commissioner Beck.
I have my little list here. I have a comment that I continue to be interested in first-time homebuyers project, and I know that we've had a change in personnel, but hope we can assign a lead person for that. In the 2024 budget, I continue to be an advocate for the spay and neuter program that we've instituted, and hopefully that will reappear in the budget. I had a call today from a person who was driving by Swift Run, and the one valve was open and water was coming out through the spillway. And so I called Kevin at Underground Utility. Evidently, they're trying to anticipate excessive, quote unquote, water from the next couple days. And so they're trying to keep the water level down a little bit in there to the proper level. So I think his comment was they had dropped about 12 inches in the lake, and it anticipates that will probably refill back up. So Kevin was quite helpful there. I want to say a shout out to our new finance director, Jerry. Jerry was very kind in allowing me to come in and ask some questions, and I think we agree that there's some different financial reporting forms that we probably need to develop in '24. But my questions were answered, and I felt good about that. So, Jerry, thank you. I appreciate your willingness to do that. I understand that we are in the process of developing an annual report for the Parks Department, and I would support that very much. I think that'll be a nice improvement. I would like to suggest that in some form we have an update on the CIP projects as we head into '24. I think some have probably been initiated, at least in part, and others are still waiting for funding. So I think that's an important thing for us to look at. I continue to be interested in the cooperation between the cold shelter in Piqua and the cold shelter project in Troy as it relates to sexual offenders. I think we have an obligation to develop a program that meets both of our city's needs fairly low population, but still, I want to advocate for the neighborhood. And I think that we need to have a better plan, and I think the director from the center would agree with me on that policy. The last thing is I think that some of us have heard the comment that Piqua is a trashy city, and I am sensitive to that agreement, that comment, but I think my response is, what's the old Forrest Gump saying? Trashy is as trashy does. And so I think we have to do some things, and it starts at home. It starts picking up trash in front of our house. It starts moving the trash containers off the street and off the right-of-way. And that's a place where we can start right now, and then we can help our neighborhoods look a lot better. So I'm hoping that our new GIS system will help us monitor that a little better, and I'm certainly an advocate for that. Thank you.
Thank
you. Commissioner Hines.
Thank you. Just reminder that this weekend are the historic holiday tour in the Piqua Caldwell Historic District. Those tickets are $25 per person. You can get those at Reedmore, and it's from 5 to 8 p.m. And I have to say, I have been on this tour numerous times. It is always a wonderful holiday treat to get into those historic homes, and especially to see them decorated at Christmas time for the holiday season. So if you got nothing to do, go down and get your ticket and enjoy the holiday tour. Also, I was going to make a suggestion, because I understand Larry's comment about getting to Bible study, and at one time, we have changed this agenda so many times. At one time, we had an information comment section in the very beginning, where somebody from Main Street could make an announcement about something happening out in the public, something like that, and then had public comment at the very end. So I only offer that because it does allow people to come in and make a comment, and if they don't have time to stay or have another obligation, they can do that. So it's more for information purposes versus public comment about something that's going on in the city or whatever. So I just offer that up as a possible alternative too. So, but that's all I have. Thanks.
Commissioner Holman.
I just want to say that the bike trail and Loch Nine Park project looks great. I'm happy that we are now reconnected to the largest bike path network in all of America, probably all of the world. I'm excited that I can have the opportunity to bike down to Dayton Metro Park again. I don't know if I'll actually take that. But when I was looking at the Loch Nine images that you had up there, it really does look like the Metro Park area down in Dayton where the bike trail goes down to. And that is a very good thing, because every time I have gone down there, it is always packed. I like to see the kind of water features that kids can play in, kind of on the concrete pads. When Metro Park has that, there's always families down there. Adding the restrooms in is a nice touch, because that's useful down in Dayton. That encourages people to come all the way up here and potentially go back down there. I think it's going to be a really great thing for kind of revitalizing that area, whereas right now and for the last several years, it's been kind of an eyesore. It's an old, dilapidated area, and I think it's going to end up looking really well. So I thank you for that. And then just kind of a little PSA. We got Christmas coming up, and it's going to get cold. And last year, I was very nearly the victim of a scam call from an electric somebody pretending to be the electric company, where they called me and told me they were going to turn off the electricity in 30 minutes if I didn't pay them a bunch of money on my Venmo or something like that. So just to be, I was also traveling, and so it was a little bit of a panic. Just be very cognizant of that as we have transitioned to paying our electricity online and having automatic bill pay. Just think things through if somebody calls you up and says that they're going to turn off your electricity in the next half hour if you don't buy them a 7-Eleven gift card.
Not true. Okay, so a reminder that we have a meeting next Tuesday, which is December the 12th. And there will be a reception, an appreciation reception at 4:30, honoring the commissioners Cindy Pearson and Casey Hines. And I'll invite you to come to that. Another thing is that this is the time of giving and kindness to one another. Doing something nice for someone doesn't have to cost a lot of money or time. It's the small things in life that can make a big difference. So you might consider donating blankets to an animal shelter, hold a door open for someone, help your parents with household chores, say please and thank you, pick up trash, you alluded to, and maybe you could donate some canned goods to a food pantry. Thank you, and that's all I have.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.